So good afternoon, everybody, and you're very welcome to the second in our series of webinars all about text-to-speech, which is jointly hosted by Sight and Sound Technology and UKAAF, the UK Association for Accessible Formats. My name is Stuart Lawler. I'm Head of Digital Content here at Sight and Sound Technology, and it gives me great pleasure to welcome you back. I think some of you were with us last week, and if you weren't, you're very welcome. To our second webinar, which today is exploring tools. Last week we looked at text-to-speech and where it's all going, and I think we all came away with some really interesting thoughts around text-to-speech and AI and what might be happening in the future. Today we're looking at how those tools work with text-to-speech and what's available, both from the manufacturer, from a producer, and from a standards perspective. So really interesting presentations over the next 45 or so minutes. We're very grateful that you've taken time to join us today. We'd love to get your interaction on Zoom, and you can do that either by posting a message in chat, and I'll be keeping an eye on chat as the session goes along. And you can also raise your hand if you wish. If you want to do that on the PC, it's Alt and Y, or you can activate the raise hand button on the app that you're using to access Zoom, whether that's on iOS or Android. And if you want to access chat on the PC, it's Alt and H, or you can access the appropriate chat option on iOS or Android. It gives me great pleasure to hand over to Roger Furman, who's the chair of UKAAF, to moderate today's session. Roger.
Stuart, very many thanks indeed. May I too add my welcome to everyone today. Our first presenter, Steve Bennett, who has worked at Dolphin Computer Access Limited since 2000, first as sales director before being appointed managing director in 2020. His length of service is testament and passion for providing equitable and flexible access to digital and print information for all people with visual impairments. Over the last 23 years, Steve's efforts have been integral in shaping the company's mission to enable individuals with all degrees of visual impairment and technical skills to read, browse, work, learn, and communicate in the way that best suits them, helping them to be a vital, integrated part of their community, education establishment, or workplace. Steve, a very warm welcome, and over to you.
Well, thank you so much, Roger. It sounds like my marketing department wrote that. Okay. So what I'm going to do is we're going to have a look at Dolphin Easy Reader. All right, so I'm just going to switch the camera. Bear with me, please, everybody, because they might jump out of focus a little bit. And the camera is actually sat over a, let me just move that. No, it's sat over an iPad. Okay, and Dolphin Easy Reader is a free app which you can download from iOS or Android, from the Play Store or the App Store, or you go on the Dolphin website and you can get the Windows. So as I say, free now, free forever. All right. Can I have more than one? You can have one on every single device you've ever touched. It's still the same free option. And Dolphin will never be charging you for the free app itself. So what I've done here is I'm actually in the App Store for Apple, and I've typed in Dolphin Easy Reader, and there I can go and download it onto this particular device. Okay, having downloaded it, what I'll have to do is make either a Dolphin account, or I can use my Google, my Apple, or perhaps my Bookshare Island OAuth system, or I can use a number of different options actually to open the app. And that's the link that is common between all the devices you use. So it's that part. All right, Dolphin don't actually harvest the email addresses. We have no idea who they are. So what we're trying to do is get people in with a common pivot point. Having downloaded the app, then what you'll have then is you've got these libraries in the side here. Okay, and from here, I'll just touch on the Belgium library. We have in fact got 46 different libraries available at the moment. And you can see I have to put my username and my password in here. Okay, now that's different to the Dolphin account or your Google account password. That's one that the library gives you, and that's the one that ensures that you're a member of the library. And you can see I've got a number of different here: RNIB Bookshare, Reading Services, Bookshare Ireland, Calibre, and I've got Google Classroom, and I'll come to that in a moment. So having done that, I'm just going to touch on RNIB Bookshare Ireland rather, and now I'm into the library. Okay, so you don't leave the app. The process is quite seamless. So what I can do here is I can touch on categories, and then if I was to randomly touch on communication, then what it will do is I'll stay in the app, and it will actually open up the different libraries, different books in the department. Now, I haven't put voiceover on for this particular demonstration because I'm on quite a short time period, but I assure you everything works perfectly with voiceover or talkback or your favorite screen reader, whatever it may be, with the Windows version. I'll just click on back. I know there are nearly 1 million books, I think, in Bookshare Ireland. There's over 1 million books sat in the RNIB Bookshare option. So with that, you're going to spend a long day trying to find the book that you want. So you can, in fact, search it. You can search for the book on the title, the author's name, or the ISBN. It's entirely up to you which you prefer to do. So if I was to type in Lord of the, I'll just type in Flies, and then press on search. I think that's a James Golding book. Then I'll get a number of different options available here. So I can see here that there's one which is an EPUB, and underneath there's another one EPUB, and then it might be different formats depending on which library you actually want. So I'll just tap on the book at the top, and then it comes, and here I have a synopsis of the book. And then from there, I can see I've got the ISBN and all the information. I'll click on download. And what will happen now is you'll see it load in. Now, because the book is text, it's EPUB, it comes in quite quickly. The download button has now turned into an open, and now I have the text for that particular book. And I'll just click on something there. Okay, so you can, if you wish, go through the text, okay, into different elements. And what I'll do is I'll just increase the size of the text, because you're probably thinking quite rightly, well, that doesn't suit too many of my users. I've got a white background, black text, and I think it's something like Times New Roman or something similar. So what you can do is you can click on the text settings, and you can change the size, the margin, the line spacing, the letter spacing. You can get it to show some descriptions. You can center the highlight. If you wish, you can have it to just show 1 line, 3 lines, or 5 lines if you prefer. And then you can change the font, and you can also change the color theme if you prefer as well. And you can change all of the colors, the text color, the background color, and the sentence color. So I'll just put a different color theme on. So I'll put something like sepia on. Come on, there we go. You can see it's changing in the background. And when I write the word highlight color, I might change to a particularly difficult green. All right, it's entirely up to you. So I love the way that the libraries under sort of Daisy's direction of bring this text forward, because what you can do now is the same book can be rendered differently for every print impaired person. You can pick your sizes. If you want large, you want your line spacing changing, what the colors, whatever you wish. It's a vertical reading experience, and you can scroll through it, whatever the size of the text. It's such a great move by everybody for this. Okay. So I'll just quickly run through a couple of things in the app. In the bottom center, you can click on a play button.
Introduction by Stephen King. I grew up in a small northern.
Okay, you can change the speed. So if I just tap on the audio settings here, I can change the rate. I can change my voice settings, and I can also change my voice. If you have an Apple voice, you have more choices available there. So it's got the Australian and Karen voice. So I'll just change it to, see if I can find another one. Let's change it to, where is she? I'm looking for the Irish voice. I can't see it at the moment, but never mind. So it's, oh, maybe it's a bit further down. Here we go, Moira. All right, I'll just go back. And here I can also change the pronunciation. So if it's saying different names incorrectly, so people's names, town names, or dinosaurs often said incorrectly. So here I could perhaps look at the name Neve, which would come out as ninth from the TTS, but instead it gets said because I've mispronounced it, misspelt it phonetically in there. Another one would be which comes out really quite strangely, and you can put those into your settings here, so you can change them. So if you wish, you can actually search the text. So if this was a reference book, then you wouldn't be able to do that. So here I can search for a particular word. So if I pop in the word start, so if I'm looking there, if I tap on there, it takes me through to that part. No, that's one not I wanted. Let's have a little bit further down. Okay, here we are again. Yeah, that's what I want to do, but I don't want to have to do that again. So I'm going to tap on bookmark. All right, and it's put a little bookmark in there, so I'll get a ping when I go over it. And if I wish, I can tap some text in there. All right, so I'll pop that in there. So just some random text, and that will be remembered each time I open this book. So I'll save that. Okay. So if I wanted to know where are all my bookmarks, bottom left-hand corner, you have the book navigation. And here we have all of the chapters of this particular book, beautifully rendered. So we can go to any particular part of this particular book. Ooh, let's find a better one than that. Here we go. Next to the headings, we have page numbers. This book doesn't have any page numbers, many do. And if I tap next to it, I've got bookmarks. So if I want to go back to that bookmark I made a few seconds ago, oh, there I am, I'm straight back to it. So I can jump between those different points. Okay. If you've got a PDF, and if you've got a Bookshare account, then if you've got a PDF from them, then you can change that. So I'll just tap in the top left-hand corner. All right, and here I've got my books, and underneath there is all the books that I've ever downloaded, which of course will start at the same place that I last used them. Okay, here is the PDF version, and so you don't have a vertical reading experience, you have a horizontal reading experience. So you can tap on the right or the left-hand side of this particular one. If you increase the size of the text, it will snap into focus. So,
20 Lords of the Flies.
So I don't find this the easiest experience using the original PDF, which is available. So what we've done is if you double tap with 3 fingers, okay, then it will switch it into like the EPUB text view. So there you do have a complete vertical experience again. So if I was to pop into that particular place, it's hot, what, did. If I tapped again twice with 3 fingers, then it takes me back to that point in the PDF. Particularly useful if you've got PDFs with graphs in or references or diagrams that you have to see. If you're using VoiceOver, you wouldn't be able to tap twice with 3 fingers. So touch the ellipsis in the top right-hand corner and you'll see switch to text view. And if I were to do that again, then you can switch back to the PDF. So you can also sideload content. So if you've got some child vision content, then you can sideload it. So in the Android devices, there's a little icon at the top, and the Windows, you've got the old classic file open from. That's available there. It's a little bit more difficult in the iOS devices, but it will open anything that's sideloaded. Having sideloaded it, it will always be available in your My Books. You wouldn't have to do it again on this particular device. Okay, so if you go on the Dolphin website, yourdolphin.com, then you look into Easy Reader, you'll see that there's descriptions of the apps, and you can find this help online there for you so that you can go and find any of the aspects. We've also got some videos so that you can use those as well if you wish. You'll also find we've got something called a premium account. It doesn't stop the app work. You don't have to have it. If you do have a premium account, it synchronizes your books and your reading style and your colors and your font between different devices. And for students, it's around about £10 or €10 per year. For individuals, it's about £30 per year. So if you want to pick up your iPhone, any device you've used in school, it could be 1 of 10, and you pop your username, your account name in, then you'll find that it will configure the books will be available and in the colors and the test, all the bookmarks that you have available. Same on your device on the way home, and the same on any device at home. It synchronizes that experience together. Okay. So lastly, running a quick sort of time, if you go a little bit further down, we've got My Classroom, Google Classroom and Microsoft Education. And if you have the premium account, you'll also find that you can have books, EPUB or DOCX, so window Word documents popped in there, and it will open them. So you can link directly into there. So it's another way of being able to open documents and read them on your particular devices as well. Okay, last thing before I hand over, you've got this option of My Clipboard Text. So if you want to go and clip text from anywhere else on this particular device, and these are synchronized between in the premium account, if you just clip some text, and then if you pop in there, you'll find it will open, okay, and you'll be able to read it in your colors, your styles, etc. It will all be available for you to do that as well. So it's not just for books that you download from the libraries, that particular case. Okay, Roger, I think I've run through most of it there without going into lots of detail, so I think I'll just hand back to you.
Steve, thank you very much for a fascinating whistle-stop tour of all that's, or most of what's there. I much admire you for doing it live, and glad it all worked. So thank you. It's really interesting, and I'm sure people will find that to have been the case. We're really grateful for you being with us.
Thank you.
We now move to a presentation from Child Vision's book production service. And we don't have one, we have three people to help us here. Catherine Howell, Reading Services Manager. Aisling Murphy, Reading Services IT Support. And Niam Byrne, Reading Services Digital Media Officer. They all have a great interest in accessible digital education and assisting students in accessing their learning through assistive technology. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Roger. I'm just going to share a presentation here, if you bear with me one moment. Just confirming that's showing up for everyone. So yeah, thank you, Roger, for that introduction. And so yes, my name is Catherine Howe. I manage the Reading Services Department here at Child Vision. And I'm here presenting along with Aisling Murphy and Niamh Byrne. So I'm going to just start with a brief introduction to what Reading Services is, and then hand over to Aisling and Niamh, who's going to give you a bit more information in how we produce our books and how they work with assistive technology. So for an overview of what Reading Services is, so we are a department that has three different areas that we look after. One is our production unit, which covers the production of educational materials in Braille, large print, digital, and 3D items. We have a library in which we provide books in Braille, Twin Vision, large print, tactile, digital, and audio books. And we also provide assistive technology support. So our production unit is a national service, and we transcribe educational materials to students all across the Republic of Ireland in primary and secondary education in both mainstream and special schools. We provide books to any child in the country or young person in the country up through Leaving Cert level who's been referred to us by a visiting teacher for the visually impaired. And these students would have a registered visual impairment, and that's when they are then referred to us through the visiting teacher, which is part of the NCSE. Formats we provide include Braille, large print, digital, text only, and 3D. And these text only files work similarly on Braille devices, similar to a BRF file. We've growth, so we started in 2000, in which we had 6 students and provided 35 titles. And then last year, 2022, we have over 950 students and provided over 8,000 different titles to our students. As mentioned, registration is through the Visiting Teacher Service, and we're funded through the Department of Education, and all titles are provided to our students free of charge. just to give you a little bit of information on our 3D printing project, it's an area of assistive technology which has allowed us to design and create items that our students can use to enhance their learning through Braille, and so for something like maths, you could have we have our two-dimensional books, and so three-dimensional concepts were always a little more difficult to portray through these books. So we got into 3D printing a number of years ago, and it's a way of creating tactile handheld items in line with the curriculum and in line with what parents and teachers and students are requesting in order to enhance the books that we're providing them. And it's a campus-wide project, and we're always looking for new ideas. So if it's something that you're interested in, or if you support a child or a young person that's learning and you have ideas, we're very eager to get your ideas, and it's something that we can expand upon. I'll just show a couple items. So we have a math shape kit, which are items that we have two-dimensional and three-dimensional items such as cubes, cylinders, squares, and then we add the Braille onto them so that the child can have the handheld item with the Braille label just for them. And we have a full kit that's provided. And again, this is free of charge to any of our students. Another item that we created a number of years ago was our fraction wall, and this was in response to ideas or requests that we had with students in what could help enhance their learning. And fractions, as we all know, is a difficult area to teach. So it's a wall from 1 to 10 pieces that are have the Braille on them, and it's a very popular item, and not just for Braille users, also for our large print students, because it has that element of the different pieces and the tactile element. So again, this is available to all of our students. And then we also, some of the more popular items is our 3D Braille Cell. So it's a three-dimensional cell with each of the 6 dots can be moved around in the cell in order to help teach the concept of the Braille cell and each of the letters to our students as they're learning Braille. And then also our 3D clock, which is something that we noticed came up time and time again in primary school books. So it's a way of enhancing the three-dimensional learnings of the tactile maths in something that can be manipulated by the student in a very independent way that they can work with their parents and teachers. We have our library, and this is a national service. We have over 1,250 members. There's a children's library and a resource library, and we have titles available in a number of formats, including Braille, Twin Vision, large print, tactile, audio, and sensory packs. And our digital books are available in EPUB, DAISY, text file, and BRF format. We also have a number of projects that we work with in order to promote literacy, and those are our sensory story times, our tactile book project, in which we work with transition year students, volunteers, and staff in order to produce new tactile books for our library. We're involved with World Book Day, in which we transcribe a number of the World Book Day titles in large print, Braille, and digital formats. And we also have our annual Braille Reading Day, which is something we all look forward to, in which we invite students from all over the country to come here and read a selection of Braille that either they've written themselves or that from a book that they love, in front of their parents, their teachers, their classmates, siblings. And it's always a really inspiring and fun day. And we just had it this past March, and we look forward to start planning the next day next year already. And so, yeah, so that's just a brief overview of the Reading Services Department as far as production and the library. And I'm going to hand over to Aisling and Niamh that are going to talk a bit more about assistive technology and how we produce our books in digital format.
Thank you, Catherine. So I'll start by talking a bit about the process in creating a book in digital format. So first of all, we'll get the physical book. And then from there, we will cut the spine of the book and put it through our scanner. So scan the entire book. And then we have a PDF format of the book, which is then processed into HTML. So from the HTML file, we will convert into either a text file or an EPUB file. And so how our books are delivered. So for our digital books, so whether they are in EPUB, DAISY, or text file format, we deliver them through our online bookshelf service. And so using this service, you can download immediately the book, to the student's preferred device as soon as the book is ready and has been finished in production. And then also we have our hard copy Braille and large print titles. So they are delivered to students through free post from OnPost. And yeah, moving on then. So here are, as Catherine has already explained, some of the formats that we provide in reading services. So we provide EPUB, DAISY, text files, and BRF files. So a student or teacher can access these books on their digital device through, as I said, on our online bookshelf service. And then each student is given their own personal account to access them. And these are accessed through their visiting teacher. When they request the book, we will then upload it onto their account. And so I'm just going to talk about some examples of the AT devices students use. So the Mercury 13 is a Windows Surface Pro with accessible technology available on it. And students can access their EPUB or DAISY books through the application Dolphin Easy Reader. So as Steve has gone through previously, it is free to download if it's not already downloaded onto the device. And probably repeating a bit of what Steve had mentioned, but again, it's very easy for students to use, to navigate to a page quickly, to have the audio option, and to also change the font, color and type to suit the students' needs as well. And then in the My Books section, the books can be, the EPUB or DAISY can be accessed through there. And also for text files, they can be accessed through a Braille Sense. EPUBs can also be accessible on the Braille Sense. And so you can download the books on a desktop or a laptop and then transfer it to the Braille device, or sorry, the Braille Sense using a USB, or alternatively, you can download the books directly to the Braille Sense by navigating to the online bookshelf website directly from the device. So this allows the student to read the book through Braille, as you can see in the picture, and then you can also store your books onto the Braille Sense. So that was just a couple of examples on some of the assistive technology that students access our digital books on. And that comes to the end of the presentation. Thanks very much for listening.
Thank you very much indeed to Catherine and Aisling and Niamh. Very interesting, and to learn of obviously about your service, and for generously sharing how you produce books, because that can always be a really good aspect for others to learn from and answer those kind of questions that are probably in many people's minds. So again, thank you very much for that. We now come to our final presenter, who is Richard Orme. Richard has worked for various disability organisations, including RNIB, for more than 20 years. He is now Chief Executive of the DAISY Consortium, the international organisation whose mission is to develop standards and solutions for accessible publishing and reading. Last week, he was in Denmark and Sweden. Next week, he is in Washington, DC. But today, he is joining us from Warwickshire in the centre of England. Richard is also a UKAAF board member. Richard, a very warm welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Roger, and thanks to the other panelists for really interesting presentations. So First, a little bit about DAISY. So the DAISY Consortium is the non-profit global authority on publishing and reading for people with blindness, with low vision, and other print disabilities. And our international team of experts develop standards, tools, and best practices. And these are then embraced by the leading technology companies, by publishers, and by library services. And using the technologies developed by DAISY, our members and friends have produced millions of journals, books, newspapers, and other documents that can be read by people with disabilities in the ways that work for them. So whether someone needs to read through enlarged text, through audio or Braille, on whatever continent and in whatever language, there are technologies and standards developed by the DAISY Consortium that can make that information accessible to everyone, irrespective of disability. And many of the DAISY libraries are producing materials similar in the way that we just heard from colleagues at Child Vision. Now, at DAISY, we used to create our own reading software, but an advantage of working with standards is that users then are not reliant on one proprietary solution, but companies and voluntary organizations, they can develop their own reading software, knowing that those apps and services can read the publications from the very many organizations that are creating accessible digital publications. And Steve gave a demonstration earlier of Easy Reader, and he explained that that app can connect to many DAISY libraries. Now, we also encourage mainstream reading apps to be accessible, the sorts of things that someone without a print disability might be naturally reading to read digital publications. And the topic of this webinar is text-to-speech. And increasingly, we see this text-to-speech feature, which sometimes we call read aloud, in mainstream apps. So if you're an ebook reader, you might see that you have the possibility sometimes of having read aloud in Kindle and Apple Books, Google Books, and some of the more academic focused reading apps such as RedShelf and VitalSource used extensively across universities now. And in the public library sector, maybe apps like Libby. I actually haven't tested that one yet. But the focus here being that text-to-speech isn't something that's locked into the specialist apps. It's increasingly becoming a mainstream and ubiquitous technology. We also see read aloud in other places too, like in your web browser. If you're using Microsoft Edge, you might find you've got read aloud in there, so you can read the web page aloud without even having to go and get a plugin or an add-on. You'll see in applications and indeed native on the mobile platforms, your phone may be able to just speak the screen to you using text-to-speech. In Word, for example, there's read aloud in the review tab, or you can use a keystroke, Alt-Control-Space, and it will start reading your document to you. So that's great if you're someone who has low vision and you want to give your eyes a bit of a rest, or if you have a processing difficulty and the ability to listen to the text that you've typed or that someone else has provided for you, or the combination of reading visually and through your ears as well. That's a very powerful one. And this is just coming as standard with Microsoft Word now. You might see it in some news apps as well. So The Guardian, The Economist, these have a read aloud feature in there. So what might our role at DAISY be to try and help this move along in the way that's most useful to people with print disabilities? Well, we do evaluations at DAISY on the various features of reading apps. We look at things like how they work with a screen reader, the way that they're able to make visual adjustments in the way that Steve was showing us. The ability for them to process mathematics and extended descriptions. But we have particular tests that we've developed to evaluate the text-to-speech features of reading apps. And whilst the tests we do are on the readers that are reading the EPUB format, actually these are user requirements that are not specific to the particular format in which the publication is encoded. And why don't I just talk about the kinds of features that people with print disabilities have told us are the fundamental things that should work, and also some of the advanced things that we test for as well. So one is, well, quite obviously, the ability to start and stop the text-to-speech, the read aloud, to be able to pause it. And what we look for here is the ability to be able to pause it and resume, and it starts again from where you would expect it to. So not from the beginning again. And also the ability to be able to start the text-to-speech at a place where you, the user, determine it to do, because some apps, they have the read aloud feature, but they always start from the very top of the chapter or the top of the page, whereas really you want them to be able to start maybe halfway through and read maybe just a specific paragraph. We would want user control over the voice, the ability to be able to maybe change the voice, as Steve showed us, switching between the different characters, as it were, genders, maybe age as well, and of course the ability to change the speed of the voice. We also test that they handle phrasing correctly. So there are read aloud features out there where, because headings in a document don't tend to have a full stop at the end of them, the read aloud is really basic, and it runs the heading right through into the text, the first sentence of the following paragraph. Similarly with a list, if you have a bulleted list with maybe some items, you don't want them reading to you. You want to know that these are different list items, as it were. So we check that the phrasing is handled correctly. And we also look to include the visual highlighting, which we saw Steve demonstrate there as well. So for some people, they really like the ability to be able to visually locate the text that's being read at the moment, and maybe even to change the color or style of that highlighting. So these are kind of the fundamentals, and you'd be surprised how many apps kind of fall over on these. And what we do at Daisy is we conduct those tests. We provide the testing results back to the app developers. They have the opportunity to improve them. And this way, everyone wins in the read aloud feature has that benefit of user feedback, and it improves the situation for everyone. There are some other things that we test for, which are in the more advanced kind of category. So because we're a global organization, as I mentioned, many publications have more than one language in them. And that language should be within the file itself, should be indicated within the content, not visible to someone who's looking at the text on the screen. But we look for the ability for the voice to automatically switch between languages, because you don't want it reading a section of Italian using an English voice, for example. And increasingly we see that as being something that's implemented. We like the feature where the user has control if there is alt text, so a description in the coding of the book behind a picture that describes it for someone who's using a screen reader. Actually, we find people who are using read aloud like that feature too, or at least the option of having alt text read to them. So that's another nice feature that we see now in some mainstream apps. Would you believe for the more mathematical publications out there, where the math expressions come up as on the screen, quite complicated, some read aloud now will read that and read out the expression to the listener accurately. So that's a nice feature. And as Steve demonstrated, the ability to be able to update the pronunciation of specific words. So he gave the examples of names of places, names of people, and dinosaurs. I think he's used that one before. That sounds like the most important things. So updating that, I mean, how annoying must it be to be listening to a book where maybe one of the protagonists, their name is mispronounced or pronounced all the way through? Terrible. So it's an exciting time for text-to-speech. We're seeing it becoming a solution that's available across multiple platforms, but the specialist reading apps are the ones that will continue to lead the way, really understanding the needs of people with print disabilities and having those extra features that people will be relying on. We also see some exciting developments in text-to-speech technology. You can hardly listen to the radio or watch the TV these days without hearing about artificial intelligence, and AI is being applied to text-to-speech. Golly, I remember when we were saying, when is text-to-speech going to improve in its quality? It just seems to be taking forever. But now the mainstream has just gone really big on artificial intelligence, and the use of huge data sets. They're being used to really make the most amazing human sounding and natural sounding voices, which are often not available on your device as a downloadable voice, but they might be accessed in the cloud. So the voices, for example, in Microsoft Word are some of the latest ones. So we'll see these artificial intelligence powered voices becoming easier to listen to, so that there we see the naturalness of the voice sometimes is an impediment, especially to younger readers. So it's great to see that moving forward. We also see language coverage. So some of the languages with smaller groups of people speaking it have had really appalling text-to-speech offers until now. And yet it seems now to be affordable to these big tech companies to be developing really good quality text-to-speech in languages that previously have really kind of suffered. It's like they're leaping generations of text-to-speech technology there. And then the last thing I'd mention is we even see now offers to the publishing industry where people are beginning to look at making audiobooks using text-to-speech. I wonder whether it will ever really compete with a proper voice actor who's researched the book, really practice on the names, maybe is putting in some characterizations and so on. But we all win, don't we, if what the result is that more books are available as unabridged audio using really high quality text-to-speech, maybe some of the non-fiction titles or the more niche genre titles as they become available with the latest state-of-art text-to-speech. And we see Google, Microsoft and Amazon all offering these services to publishers, and publishers now offering these books into the marketplace as machine narrated audiobooks. So it's a bright time for text-to-speech. It's great to hear all the progress that's being made in terms of the apps from our friends at Dolphin, and that folk in Child Vision are making use of the technology too. That's it from me as a kind of wrapping up on where we see the standards and the technologies going. Roger, and back to you.
Richard, thank you very much for a fascinating tour of particularly what Daisy are doing and giving us an insight into the, really practical testing that you do to greatly enhance what we all want at the end of the day, the user experience. That's where it's at. And, really thank you for all that you're doing in that area with your colleagues. At this point, I'm going to hand back to Stuart, and he'll tell us if we have any questions. I expect we do.
Thank you, Roger. Thanks to all our presenters. Really, and by the way, we're bang on time, so I'm really impressed. So thank you to everybody for sticking to time and for really engaging and interesting presentations. It's been really interesting for me just to listen today. And we do have some questions and comments, I suppose, in chat. Steve will be happy with this one. Someone says that the best app Dolphin have ever made, and I presume they're referring to Easy Reader, worked with every device I have and makes searching so easy. And I have to say, as someone who's used Easy Reader app, I have to agree with that too. It's a really great application. Richard, question here from somebody who's asking about what have you found to be the best TTS solution that's currently either on the market or being developed? And is there maybe a different TTS that can be used for reading things like equations that might be better?
Okay, so the straight answer to the question of which is the best is that it depends. So that's kind of obvious. And what do I mean by that? If you're looking for an app that has lots of user controls, then, and I'm not just saying it because Steve is here, Easy Reader consistently comes out very highly on the scoring there. So that's because it has those additional features that is missing in advanced features of other apps. So the ability to change the pronunciation, to define some of the pauses, the ability to change the visual highlighting, and then the fact that you can add different voices to it. That's very, very powerful. But there are other options in that if you wanted one that you wanted to use on your desktop computer and access to mathematics was something you're interested in, then another option is Thorium Reader, which is from the French organization EDR Lab, because they're one of the first ones to introduce the read aloud for mathematics. But I know that other app developers are catching up with that. And then a third kind of answer to that, it depends kind of thing, is if your content is actually kind of commercial, say fiction materials, then the best reading app with the text to speech is the one that's got your content. And so finding a platform, because often the same books are available on iBooks, on from Apple, from Google Books, from Kindle, from Kobo, and so on. So in that case, the best app is the one where your books are that you want to read. So pick the option that has the read aloud features that work for you. We do our testing. We publish all our results on a website called epubtest.org. They're quite complicated kind of test grids. And so you'll find a link to what we call the Reading System Roundup on another of our websites. And this has got much more consumer-friendly list of all sorts of apps, and it includes Easy Reader, but also apps such as Kindle and Kobo and others on there too. So there are three things at least to think about in the answer to in my answer to Peter's question. It kind of depends what you're after. I hope that's not just dodging it.
No, Richard, that was a very comprehensive answer. So thank you very much for all that really useful information. If anyone would like to raise your hand, you have an opportunity to do that as well. And Peter appreciates the answer. So thanks, Peter. If anyone would like to raise your hand, you can do that with Alt and Y, or if you want to activate the raise hand button if you're on an app. We do have a moment or two to take questions. If you would like to speak to our panelists or put any questions to them. And Richard is just putting in chat there the website that he just referenced a moment ago. So another just moment if anyone wants to raise their hand. If there's any other comments or questions in chat that you'd like to put into chat. We've been really great presentations today, and we're very grateful to our presenters. But if there's nothing else, Roger, I'm going to hand it back to you to sign off.
Thank you, Stuart. Well, it's been a great privilege for me, and I've learned a lot today. And again, would like to thank our presenters for giving of their time and their expertise, and knowing that this session will be recorded, so will be available for many to catch up with who perhaps couldn't join us today. I'd also like to thank Stuart, particularly for all his work. We have worked together, but Stuart's done a phenomenal amount of work to bring these two events to fruition. And I'm really grateful, Stuart, to you and your colleagues at Sight and Sound. So from all of us, I'll bid you good day and thank you once again for joining us. Goodbye from all of us.